Hi boys and girls, so I am going to start out today by showing you your answers for the math homework that you're supposed to do. If you haven't done it yet, please pause the video and do that now. You should have done page 599 and page 600. So here are your answers on page 599. This clock, this analog clock, is showing 7 o'clock to the hour. You had to write 7 o'clock digitally. So 7 o'clock and then digitally is 700. Same thing with number 2. Your analog and your digital should both show 11. And then here's the back of that page. The first two are the same. The first two you have to look at the analog clock and determine the digital clock. And then number 5 says this. Layla's dance class starts at 6 o'clock. It ends 1 hour later. Circle the clock that shows the time the dance class ends. So something starts at 6. If it started at 6, 1 hour goes all the way around the circle. So let's move this hand all the way around the circle, back up to the number 12. So her dance class ends at 7 o'clock. So you should have circled the digital clock that showed 7. If you have any questions about that, please let me know. Now I want you guys to flip your page so you're looking at page 602. 602. So we've been talking about time to the hour. This is time to the hour. Your big hand or your minute hand is pointing straight up at the 12. And then your little hand or your hour hand will be pointing straight at a number. So this clock is showing us 7 o'clock. My hour hand or my small hand is pointing right at that 7. My minute hand's pointing at the 12. So I can read this as 7 o'clock. Today we're going to start talking about time to the half hour. So 1 whole hour would be a whole entire circle. We'd go, this hand in 1 hour goes all the way in a circle around the clock. But a half hour only goes halfway around the circle. You may have noticed that while I was moving this from the 12 to the 6, my little red hand moved. My hour hand moved. Let's take a look at that. If you didn't notice it last time, look at that. Right now it's 7 o'clock. When I move this hand half of the circle, a half an hour or 30 minutes, my red hand, my hour hand, goes from the 7 to in between the 7 and the 8. You see that? So right now it's on the 7. And then when I get to the 6, it moves past the 7. But it has not hit the 8 yet. It hasn't hit the 8 yet. So since it hasn't gotten to the 8 yet, this clock is showing 7:30. It starts at 7. Half of an hour is 7:30. Most of the time, aside from right here, most of the time, the number will always be the smaller one. So if you're looking at a clock, let's look at, let's say this. When you're looking at a clock, when your big hand is on the 6, it's always something 30. That's why this little 30's down here. It's always something 30. So then you want to look at your red hand or your small hand, your hour hand, to see what 30. Is it 7:30? Is it 9:30? Is it 11:30? So you look and see that your red hand or your hour hand is in between two numbers. My hour hand is in between a 10 and an 11. If I go back here, this clock is showing 10 o'clock. My minute hand is on the 12. My hour hand is on the 10. It's easy to tell that that's showing 10 o'clock. When I move a half an hour, that minute hand moves off of the 10, or that hour hand moves away from the 10. But it hasn't touched the 11 yet. Between 10 and 11, my smaller number is 10. So this clock is showing 10:30. The only time it won't be the smaller number is when it's like this. This clock is showing 12 o'clock. Both, you can see it's kind of hidden, but both my minute hand and my hour hand are pointing at the 12. When I move half of an hour down to the 6, it's in between the 12 and the 1. You always want to see what two numbers your hour hand is in between to determine time. It's in between the 12 and the 1. Well, with 12 and 1, my smaller number is 1. But this is the only time that it won't be your smaller number. Right now, this clock is showing 12:30 because it's at 12 o'clock. If I go 1 whole hour, now it's at 1 o'clock, but I only want to go half of an hour. I don't go 1 whole hour. I only go half of it. So I haven't touched this one yet. So this clock is showing 12:30. So let's take a look at number 1 on page 602. Number 1 on page 602. This clock shows 9 o'clock. I see my minute hand on the 12 and my hour hand on the 9. When I move half of an hour, not a whole hour, just half of one, now my minute hand is on the 6 and my hour hand is in between the 9 and the 10. Since my hour hand hasn't gotten to the 10 yet, but it's gone past the 9, this clock is showing 9:30. So next to number 1, you can write 9:30 like this. $9:30. Well, that's kind of hard to see. Let me get a better color. $9:30. That clock shows 9:30. Now let's look at number 2. This clock right now is showing us 1 o'clock. My minute hand is on the 12, my hour hand is on the 1. When I go half of an hour, so down to the 6, now my minute hand is on the 6, so I know it's something 30, and my hour hand is in between 1 and 2. 1 and 2. So I've gone past the 1 already, but I haven't yet hit the 2. My smaller number is 1. So number 2 is showing 1:30. So next to number 2, I don't know why I put that back. Next to number 2, we can write 1:30. Now let's look at number 3. This time I'm not going to show you the hour. I'm just going to show you the half hour. So you have to look. So my minute hand is pointing at the 6. So I know this is time to the half hour. It's something 30. And my hour hand is in between the 6 and the 7. It's in between the 6 and the 7. Because my hour hand hasn't yet hit the 7, but it's past the 6, I know that this clock is showing me 6:30. 6:30. So next to number 3, you can write 6:30. Okay, number 4. Same thing, I'm only going to show you the half hour. This clock, my minute hand or my long hand is pointing straight down at the 6, so I know it's something 30. And my hour hand or my shorter hand is in between the 3 and the 4. I've gone past the 3, but I haven't hit the 4 just yet. So I know that this clock is showing me 3:30. 3:30, because between 3 and 4, my smaller number is 3. My hour hand has moved past the 3 already, but hasn't hit the 4. Clocks count up. So when you're moving clockwise, when this hand is moving around the clock, it's going to go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, just like you would count. So when it's 6 o'clock and it hasn't hit the 7 yet, it goes 6 to 7, but I'm not there yet. I know it's 6:30. I want you guys to do the On My Own page, page 603 by yourself. Pause the video here to do that now, please. And then we will talk about it. Okay, you should have paused the video to do that page all on your own. Hopefully you did that. Now you should be looking at number 5 on page 603. Number 5, the clock looks like this. I'm at the 6, which means it's something 30.